Sewing day. Marty and I were in a quandary what we wanted to do for you today, and we kicked back to a whole bunch of ideas, and then we just had a light bulb come on. We had a girl come in yesterday, and she had put together a quilt top, and she struggled with the sashing. So we threw out a couple ideas for her that she had not really been aware of. So we thought, well, maybe somebody else hasn't been aware of this. So what we want to do is we want to talk to you about sashing today. Now, traditionally in a quilt, if you have separate blocks, remember the old samplers? You have a block, and then you have a piece, a strip, and a block and a strip, and then you have a strip that goes this way. Well, if you try to, and let's pretend on this one, if you try to line up this row to this row and get this perfectly straight, it is nigh on impossible. You fuss and you fiddle, and it's a nightmare. So what we have found that works easy, and I'm going to go back to showing you on this one. This is our 4-Star General Revisited, I think it's called. And this, in a sense, is what we did here. I got a sampler. If I hold it flatter up, which is going to be better.
Flat is good.
Okay. So if you look at this, I have this brown sashing between my big, huge blocks. I have little sashing in here, and I did the same thing. What we're going to suggest that you do, instead of trying to put this as a big, long strip, we're going to have you cut the strip exactly as long as your block, and then you're going to put a cornerstone in. Now, this is what you would call a cornerstone. It's a little square that goes in the middle. It's in the corner of each block, I suppose. The best thing about it, it gives you registration points. So if you sew this block to a sashing to this block, the same thing, block, sashing, block, sashing. So you have a fat row, and then you sew a sashing, cornerstone, and sashing. When you go to put these together, you can do butted seams, which we all love, butted seams, and get these little intersections perfectly lined up. If you did not have these seams right here, this is impossible. It's impossible to get them perfectly lined up. So if you look on this, and you probably can't even see it from the camera, when I was putting these together, instead of doing one long row, there is a little square of the brown right in here. And you can't even see it, and it doesn't detract from the quilt. But now I know that this corner of my cream is going to line up with this corner of my navy black right here. So you don't have, let me see if I don't know if I can do it with this. This is what sometimes you end up getting when you have, it'll look like that. Do you see how that's not lined up and that's not lined up? It's easy to fix, and that's our whole point. It's easy to do it correctly so it doesn't show everything is nice and intersected. So that's one instance of how we did it. I'll come back to that one. Then we've got this one down here. Oh, we'll throw that on the floor. This is another example of lattice, and this was Andrew's Mill. And on this one, the lattice, every one of these was the same size, and I'm sure that the designer did this on purpose. You didn't do, oh, you did this?
They did a flat.
Oh, they did one long strip.
Mm-hmm.
They did one long strip. And Marty decided in her infinite wisdom,
because I like using my scraps.
Yeah. What she decided to do was cut her pieces for her sashing the same size as the blocks in her block. Now it doesn't, I'm sorry, that's the block. That's the block.
Yeah,
there we go.
Block.
Yeah, so you see again, this lines up with this, lines up with this, and it just goes right on down the quilt. So everything is a little more geometric, which for those of us who tend to be a little more anal, we like it that way.
Even me who likes things a little wonky, I'm sorry, your rows have got to line up.
Yeah, when you have this going on, it's just not.
Especially when it's supposed to.
Right. This is a new quilt that we're going to be doing kits for, and our friend Candy zipped it up for us. It is absolutely gorgeous. And this has got the same concept, except for the points, or the blocks are on point. Can you see? Mm-hmm. But do you see on this one, again, the same thing. If you had done these all in a long...
If you look at it like this.
If you look at it, yeah, if you look at it. But if you had tried to do those all in a long strip, nothing would have ever lined up. You would have had jig-jogging all over the place. But in this instance, you've got these beautiful intersecting points. And isn't that gorgeous? I will hold it up so you can see it a little. That's half of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know what it's called.
I think it's going to be called Katsura.
Katsura.
Was
which
the
I
name
have
of the
no clue what that
fabric. So,
means. Yeah,
so that's
the fabric line.
batiks.
So these are batiks, all in shades of blue. A great guy quilt, a great anybody quilt, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what we want to show you. But now we want to talk about this quilt. What we did here is we took a layer cake. Now this is one from Riley Blake.
It's right over there. It's at Woodland Flannels, I
Woodland
think is what
Flannels,
it's called.
yeah, because this is actually flannel. So what we did is we took the layer cake and we pulled out the big prints. And we then took the coordinating prints, which are these guys, and cut these into 2.5-inch squares. So there was absolutely not a speck of waste on this. This is what we have left over, and we may try to do a border with it. This is what we had. Oh, this is what we had left over from an entire layer cake, and as I say, we may try to do a little pieced border around the outside edge. So what we did, if you look at this, those are our cornerstones. So when you came to this intersection, like, oh, well, what color cornerstone? You could pick anything you wanted to go in there. But what we decided to do was to make this piece extend, so it gives you a different, a little bit funkier, different look. A little bit, again, go back to the geometry, a little bit more geometric look. So,
Mess some of them up and let's see what it looks like.
what do you want me to do?
Mess some of the cornerstones up so that they weren't the same as.
Well, you know this makes me crazy.
I know it does, but you can handle it. You're a tough girl.
Okay, so you could do, this is another
Yeah, it gives you a whole different look. Having a flannel wall is a really good idea sometimes.
Yeah, and flannel walls don't have to be extravagant. All you have to do is go and buy a flannel backed tablecloth, like a picnic tablecloth, and hang it on the back of a door. So you can do something like that. Is that enough?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So that you
it
get
does.
the
It gives you a
idea.
whole different look to it.
Yeah, it gives you a whole different look. So that's why you can play around with it. But again, going back to, if you tried to do this as one long strip, you would have like this all over the place. This takes all of the guesswork, the measuring, because back in the old days when I started quilting, you were supposed to, if you were doing this, you were supposed to measure. So it would be 12.5 inches or 10 inches. You would have to make a mark. Then you'd have to make another mark. Ugh. So this is much easier, and I think it gives it a little bit more fun look. So in honor of Marty and I coming up with this idea in, the last hour.
Half hour. Cutting it out, throwing it on the flannel wall.
That's why it's not done, because we just decided to do it. So anyways, what did we decide to do about our?
We're going to do our, this what did we call them? Take it easy sale that we did with the needles.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to do our layer cakes. Our layer
sale.
cakes are going to be on sale this week, so anything that's on the website. And we're going to do them...
We hadn't even decided that, did we? 20% off.
20% off.
20% off, we decided. And I was going to just get, okay, so this is that one.
That one's the Woodland
Yeah,
Flannel.
what's one? And this, we just pulled out a couple, because this would make a great kid's quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great
It's a good size, yeah.
It's a good size. It's a nice lap quilt. But if you take any layer cake, because this is 42 squares, right? 42,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Most layer cakes come 42, 44 squares. So you could get a quilt this. If you have a friend who's having a difficult time and they need, we have so many ladies who come in and their friend is going through chemo, or they're just having a hard time, something to cuddle up with on the couch. And it doesn't have to be flannel, but you could just do something.
It doesn't have to be huge.
And it doesn't have to be huge. But this is
Or complicated.
Go it together fast, get it done, don't have to think about it a lot.
And this would be easy to quilt.
Yeah.
Very honestly, you did on both sides of the ditch and then through the diagonals, you'd be good to go.
Yeah, you'd have it quilted.
Easy peasy.
This just came in this week. This is another batik layer cake called Hidden Valley, but it's all the watery blue, I don't know what you would call them.
Watery,
But
I
just
think that's good.
Beautiful, beautiful batiks. A little purple thrown in there. So those just came in. And if you have a friend who's really into the reproduction-ish stuff, these are from Buda. We got these at the just before Christmas, I think. Farmer's Daughter and Prairie Dry Goods. Very, 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 very small calico-esque fabrics that you could use. And the thing with these, if you wanted to make a bigger quilt, you could use these for all of your big squares. And if you think you have 40 of them, you've got, what?
6 by 7
6
would
by
be 42.
7. Yeah, it would be 42. And then pick a solid tone for your sashing. And then do just one fabric for sashing. And again, go back to what I said on my generals. Cut a square of the same fabric that is your sashing. Throw it in there. Everything will line up. So all it would take was 1 layer cake and probably...
Yard and a half maybe.
Yard and a half maybe would be enough probably for binding and sashing. And you have yourself a zip, zip, zip quilt that you could have done in a day. Back in the old quilt in a day days. This...
We all know that was a lie.
I know. Eleanor Burns sold us all a bill of goods, but boy, was it a good start down a good path. I remember going to Quilt Market, one of our first ones, and she was there, and we're like, my gosh, what is going on here? Because
she was a little odd.
She was very enthusiastic.
Flamboyant.
Flamboyant, yes. I'll never forget one of them we went to, she was there, and she was introducing her pineapple book. We were all sitting in the classroom waiting for Eleanor Burns to show up, and all of a sudden the back doors behind us whip open, and she comes flying down the middle of all the chairs and the seats with this big, like a restaurant cart filled with pineapple, cut up pineapple, and was handing out pineapple to everybody. That's just the way she was. But anywho, we will we'll make sure that we've got all the layer cakes updated on the website so that you can pick and choose from those. And again, they'll be 20% off for the week, because remember, we're doing everything for a week.
And we were going to do a pattern, but I really don't think it's necessary.
No, there's no pattern to it.
I mean, you're leaving the squares whole. You're cutting 2.5-inch sashings and 2.5-inch squares.
Yep, and no waste.
You just kind of have to look at your layer cake and say what's going to work.
Yep, and if you don't have a flannel wall, put it out on your floor.
Right,
If you don't have a cat or a dog that's going to help you, it would work just fine. 2 other things I want to say, except for I think 2 people, I have all the needles finally mailed out. Yay! It took a while, but yes, if you haven't gotten yours, they will be on your way. And next week we've got spring is coming, kids. My crocuses are up, my snowdrops are out, and we've got daffodils starting to poke up through the mulch. So spring will be arriving at Material
Just to
Rewards.
get snowed on again tonight.
I know, but they're talking like 1 inch, for crying out loud. Oh, I don't believe them. But anyways, so that would be our tidbits for this week. If you have any questions, you know where to get us. See you next week.
Bye.